Okay, now that our pot has been sanded completely, we're ready to polish it with the river rock. So you can see there's no bumps anymore, there's no finger marks, it's smooth everywhere. But before we start polishing with the rock, we need to rehydrate the pot. We've got to get it wet again. You can run it under the water of a faucet, or if you have a bucket, dip it in there, pour the water out, and you're gonna see, it's shiny now, but in a second all that water is gonna soak into the clay and it won't be wet to the touch. And you can see how fast that's happening. So you're gonna do that like 4 times. And in between each time, you're gonna wait a second for that water to soak back up into the clay. You can see it got a little different color too, it's getting darker. So dry to the touch now. I'm gonna do it one more time. So you're gonna be using this river rock, and you wanna use the flat side. Most of them I gave you have a flat side. And not all the rocks are good everywhere. You want to find a smooth area on one of the flat sides. And I just dunked it 2 times. Each time you dunk it, it's going to take a little longer for the water to soak in. So that was my 3rd dunk. Now if you have a big pot, it might take a little more dunking. If you just made a tiny little pot, maybe just dunk it 2 or 3 times. Again, this is all practice, trial and error. When you start burnishing it, if it's not working, dip it in one more time. Okay, so it's dry to the touch again. Hopefully that was the 4th time. So that was the 4th time I've dunked it. For a pot this size, over the years, I found that about 4 times is a good amount. I also find it interesting when you listen, you can hear the water soaking into the clay. It's like Rice Krispies. This one's really singing. You can still a little shiny and wet. Again, it takes a little longer each time. Okay, so now it's dry to the touch, it's not wet, and we've rehydrated. It's not soft anymore, so we can't bend the clay. So still be careful not to break your pot. So you're going to take your rock, and on the flat side, going back and forth in one direction, you're going to press against your clay, and it's going to polish the clay and make it nice and smooth, nice and shiny. Now I go in one direction. I don't go randomly in circles. Kind of back and forth in one direction. I do that because One Direction is my favorite band. Now, if you kind of go randomly all over, you can see the marks. If they're all kind of lined up, you don't see the marks as well. So this is the step that takes quite a while. This is the painstaking step. Your fingers might cramp up, you might have to take a break. If you do take a break, you're going to need to keep this in a bag, because if it dries out again, you won't be able to polish it. If you need to take a break and it dries out and you come back, not that big of a deal, you just get it wet again. So I'd like you to polish everywhere you can see your pot. So you can see it's getting nice and shiny, smooth like a baby's butt. You can see the difference there where I polished it as opposed to where I haven't polished it. Now I hold the inside for support when I do up here. Sometimes you might have to use the end of the rock to get into this little area here. The more you go over the same spot, the shinier it gets. Okay, and then I also do the inside. I support it from the outside with my hand, and you can get in here. If you can't use the flat side, you can use the side of it maybe. I'm very careful when I polish the mouth of the pot. I don't want to break it. So if you don't polish it very good up here or a lot, that's okay. If you're afraid it's going to break. All right, my pot's drying pretty quick. That's kind of hot here in El Cajon. If I need to get it wet, say this takes a long time and this area here dries out, you could get it wet again all the way, but quite often the water will kind of mess up the part you already polished. So I like to, if I need to, use my fingers, or I can use a paper towel. And just apply water to where you need it. I've already burnished there. If you apply water, it's not as smooth. So this side here that I haven't polished, I'm just going to add a little water. It started to, you'll hear it, it'll start to scratch instead of polish. So if it's scratching and making a kind of a noise, it just needs a little bit more water. Okay, so I'm going to end this video. I'm going to show the finished product. This is going to take me another 15 minutes, and I don't want you to have to just watch for 15 minutes. If I knew how to edit videos, I could make this like speed up. I have a feeling by the end of this quarter I'll be editing videos like a pro. We'll even do the bottom of the pot. Okay, so we keep going till the whole thing is polished.